Welcome to Be Brilliant with Jing Lang, the podcast dedicated to those seeking to excel in every aspect of their lives. Through conversations with her guests, Jing will tease out personal stories, helpful tips, and proven strategies to help you elevate your life and reach your highest potential. Get ready to dive in and discover what it means to be truly brilliant. And now, here's your host, Jing Lang.
Valerie Adelson is an actuary with over 17 years of experience and is currently the Global Client Manager for Mercer. She's also the chair of the D&I Advisory Group of the Canadian Institute of Actuaries, the leader of the Montreal affiliate of the International Association of Black Actuaries, and the editor for the Actuary magazine in Canada.
Good morning, Valerie. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Jen. I'm going well, thank you. And yourself?
I'm doing great. And where are you right now?
If I want to be very precise, I'm in Laval, Quebec. So I'm very near Montreal. I live right across the bridge from Montreal. So I'm in the suburbs, but I'm originally from Montreal.
Beautiful. Can you tell us a bit more about your upbringing?
Yes. Where do I start? Well, I was born and raised in Montreal. And so when I was born, my parents, they had two kids. So I'm the second kid. So my sister was 4 when I was born. So they had already had their house in Laval. So I grew up in Laval where I live right now. So I grew up in Laval. Growing up, I was a kid. I was always very curious. A major change in my life was when my parents got divorced when I was around 7. So that's when I feel like there was the before and after in my life. But as a kid, I was always curious. I always enjoyed learning. My sister being older than myself, when she started school, immediately when she came back with her books, I was like in the books and I was trying to learn to read myself. And I grew up in a household where we lived with family. It was a typical Haitian family where the grandparents were in the household as well. One of my uncles has health issues. He couldn't live by himself, so he lived with us as well. So there was always a lot of people in my house. So I felt like I've learned a lot from them. And I was close to my cousins too. My grandmother would babysit us. So I grew up close to my family. And then I went to all-girl private high school where I met 2 of my amazing friends who knew exactly what they wanted to do later on in life. So I feel like it shaped me a lot. And somehow around 15, I decided I wanted to try a pageant. I participated in a pageant where I realized my only, because I needed to have a talent when I did it. It was a personality pageant because my mom wouldn't have me do more of a beauty pageant. So it was more of a personality one. So I did it. I won. But from that's when I learned I could speak. Speaking became a big thing in my life where even though I love math, I love numbers, I've always tried to figure out ways for me to speak and combine the two together. So, and then from there, after high school, I decided I knew I loved math for sure. It was easy in a way. It was easy for a while until it became hard, but I loved the challenge of math. And so I started in math and wanted to do something related to the field. Ask in school, I was talking with, we had orientators to help us figure out what we wanted to do in life. They were like, either you become a math teacher or an actuary. I became scared. So I decided to go into economics. So I earned an economics degree. That was my first university degree, a bachelor's, economics and business. Loved it. I handed it to my mother because for my mom, it was very important that my sister and I had a university degree. So once I gave it to her, I was like, you know what? Now I'm free to do whatever I want to do. Went back to school, studied math, became an actuary. It was a long path to getting there, but I did.
So, wow, there's so many topics you mentioned that I need to go back.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned at some point that the first time you were faced with math and becoming a math teacher or actuary, you got scared. Did I get that right?
But I was told, I was told it was really hard. And for some reason, there was something the way the person said it was I don't think you should go. So I became scared. For some reason, I felt like maybe it wasn't the right path for me. But then I had a friend from elementary school and high school who went into actuarial science right away. And I could follow her. And then, there was with the Facebooks of this world, I was able to see she was doing her internships and and I met her. I remember one day I met her. I was waiting for the bus, met her. She was coming back from her first internship. And I was like, oh my God, I should have done it. That's what I wanted to do. But I was already studying in economics and I was way too far advanced in my economics journey to just change. So I decided to graduate and then move on to something else after.
You are such a polymath. We have to go back to the personality pageant. Tell us more about that, please.
Thank God it was prior to the internet and so I don't even think there are videos anywhere about hopefully they're not. So it was like a pageant. It's Miss Teen Haiti, Quebec. So it was for from those of us who are from Haitian descent. It took a couple of months of preparation where we were prepared on how to speak publicly. We had to prepare choreography. We were asked different questions. So we had to prepare on how to answer the questions. So it was really like a whole preparation. And then the night of the pageant, we were on stage with like our gowns and everything and talking. And it was fun. It was a fun process. I was the underdog because everybody thought somebody else was going to win. She was really, really good. But that's when the competitive nature, like in me, I guess, came out. And I was like, you know what? I can win this. I can do it. And then people were like, well, you can sing. You like to dance, but you're not that great of a dancer. So what are you going to do? And I'm like, wait, I'll impress you. And that's when I came out with this fashion show because I grew up with my mother. She used to make my dresses. So I grew up around like sewing machines. So anything related to sewing was part of like my upbringing as well. So I knew I could make a very simple collection of clothes related to Haiti and like the Caribbeans. And then I would talk, and I knew my speaking, the way I would present the clothes would make the difference. So I had little kids like do the runway for me, and I would present it. And somehow it helped me win.
That's incredible. And you mentioned that you are speaking already at this young age.
Yeah.
Do you speak currently? Well, obviously with your clients, but on stage.
I was part of a radio. I have the retirement background. So I would talk about retirement planning, not from a giving advice perspective, but more about talking about how retirement works in general. People in the Haitian community might not be aware of because some of us, from a lot of us, our parents were like the first ones to retire, didn't have all the information they needed at the time. So it was just to share that information. So I did that. During the pandemic, I did a little bit of self-improvement videos. It's funny how people come back to me and they talk to me about them a lot. And they're like, you remember you said this in one video and then you were talking about this book. And I kind of forget about it sometimes until people bring it back to me. So that's interesting. And then I stop for some reason, but then I have a lot of people who ask me when I'll have a podcast or something. So I did speaking like this. Whenever I have a chance at work, I will speak. But I know in the back of my mind, I have this dream of doing something bigger. I just don't know what it is. But I know that I owe it to myself eventually to allow myself to be on stage a little bit more. But I just don't know how. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just hearing about your background and the things you have done with your life, you will be an amazing motivational speaker.
Yeah, well, for sure, I'd love to. My goal is to motivate and have that feeling that I'm helping other people. And I get that sense when I go to bed at night. I very often have that feeling that, okay, that sense of accomplishment where I'm like, you know what, I've helped people. Some people have said thank you. Some people come back to me and they share their stories with me where they're like, Valerie, you made a difference. So maybe that's why I'm lazy on the speaking and big stage perspective because I get to do it with a smaller stage at the moment. Yeah.
Well, I think small bites are fantastic. It gets you started and people are already responding to your content. I think that's fantastic. It seems to me that you are very curious in different things. How do you strike a balance?
Yeah, I'm being careful nowadays. I feel like over the past couple of years, it became easier because I had more time with whatever everything that was happening with the pandemic. So all of a sudden I have extra time. So I took on a lot. And now I feel like over the past year or so, I've had to learn to say no a little bit more and to kind of pick my priorities and to be very transparent whenever I'm asked to do something about the fact that I don't have a lot of time to give to anything new at the moment. And I also have to put a lot of time and effort in my career. The role I have requires a lot of my time. I do a lot of networking events. So my days don't end at 5. I do have evenings that are busy with work things as well. So I had to be mindful of that. And then the weekends, I have like aging family members. I want to make sure I spend time with them as well. So it's about like time management a lot. I wake up earlier in the morning. My days start much earlier now. So I try to extend as much as possible, but I'm also very intentional when it comes to my health and making sure I have good habits. So it's important for me to sleep a minimum number of hours. I want to take the time to exercise. So making sure it fits, but I'm very vocal about expecting what I can and can't do. And I'm always reviewing my plate and making sure I'm asking myself, am I doing this for the right reason? Am I bringing the value that I would want to bring? Or am I taking somebody else's space where somebody else could do much better than me in this role? So I'm constantly asking myself these questions. And for sure, I have people as part of my community that come to me and they say, thank you, Valerie, you've done this. You wrote this article. And I have some articles on LinkedIn that I've written years ago and they're being quoted again. So it makes a difference. So that's when I'm like, I know it's worth it because there's somebody somewhere for whom it makes a difference. So It's the impact I want to have. So I feel maybe impact is the way I make decisions nowadays.
I love that. And what are the things that you feel so strongly about that you want to have a lasting impact over the next 5 to 10 years?
I feel strongly, and I don't know how to talk about diversity and inclusion nowadays. It's evolving and it's a topic that's, I feel like somehow became very political, but I like to view it as my personal experience. I grew up in a household, and I'm close to my mother, so very often I'll talk about my mother, but my dad is in the picture as well. I have all these conversations with her, and I remember the time when I told her, I was like, we're not of the same generation, which is obvious because we're not. She's older, but I was like, we're not of the same culture. And she was surprised by this one because in my house, I grew up in a culture where it was the Haitian culture. But then whenever I would go outside, play with my friends would come to my house. They would ask questions about my culture, and it would be a different culture. And then I'm a French speaker in a mostly English speaking country. So then they're layered. I'm a woman. And then everything, it's adding and adding. So I feel like for me, diversity is just who I am. It's like, it's been part of ever since I was a kid. I was always very sensitive to different culture, like the nuances, even with my parents. I'd be curious to know like why they would speak a different language amongst themselves. I would speak French with them. But then growing up, I embraced the language Creole because my grandmother would speak mostly Creole with me. So I learned to speak Creole with her. But then I knew like my brain was always like, okay, in this setting, you speak French. But then even in French, my accent in French would be different outside of my house than when I would speak French inside of the house. So my brain was always like switching back and forth. So for me, that's my reality. So it became very natural when D&I became a topic for me to be, you know what, I want to be part of this discussion because that's who I am. And I don't want the future generations to feel like they can't be themselves and to constantly switch between different identities because it's exhausting. So I want people to know that they are okay the way they are, but they still have to learn about the culture where they are. A big part of my community, as part of the International Association of Black Actuaries in Montreal, a lot of the new generation of actuaries that are part of this community, they grew up in a different country, came here just as students. So they're facing this new culture. So I wouldn't want them to become somebody else. I just want them to learn and to not necessarily try the method I've used because I feel like maybe being born here, it took like a very complicated way. The way I did things was maybe very complicated, and I would want to avoid this for other people. So I let people decide how they want to do things, but I feel like maybe from an advice perspective, I like to share the wisdom a little bit. I don't know if it answers your question, but it was my long answer.
It does. It does. We're the sum of our experiences, right? So
Yes.
if we look back, we can feel like we took a roundabout, but maybe there's still something about that, that curve journey that will pay it forward at some point in the future that maybe we
Yes.
don't see yet. But you also have a degree to show for as well. So it doesn't seem roundabout. So you mentor the students in these programs. Do you spend time on one-on-one? How do you want to cascade your impact with the students in the future?
Right now, the way it is, I'm a leader for the Montreal region of the International Association, the affiliate of the International Association of Black Actuaries. So the way it is, I organize events. So I'll talk with partner organizations, employers in the actual industry where we organize together some events for the members where we get to help them. So it's important because the mission of the association is to help actuaries be successful in their career. So it's not just to get a first job and stay at that level. It's just about if you want to progress in your role, let me give you tools and the knowledge and the skills, help you develop the skills you need so you can grow in your career and have a career that meets your expectations, essentially. And for that, I partner with different employers where we create events, networking events, but we also not only just want them to meet with people, but we want to make sure we use that time to teach them about something. So that's when there's sessions about specific topics. For example, we do our own networking events. We just had a barbecue a week ago, where we met, and it was just beautiful to see the members sharing their insights and experience amongst themselves. They come to me, but I also try to put them in contact with the right people so they have a network around them of people they feel safe around to just ask basic questions. Sometimes I get, basic questions. Sometimes people will be like, do you think I should change my hairstyle for the interview? What should I do? And then I don't always have the exact answer. I can share experience, what I've seen throughout my career, how I see the things have evolved, because we have evolved also as a profession. So I get to share insights. Sometimes I'm cooking my dinner and I'm on the phone with somebody who's going through something in their career. So I'm very accessible. I want them to reach out to me and be able to contact me whenever they have questions. So sometimes I'm just cooking dinner and talking with them, and then they share the good news afterwards. Sometimes it's not good news, but months later they come back to me with good news. So I'm kind of I have this formal informal framework in the way that I mentor them, but they know they can always reach out to me. We have this WhatsApp group, and I'll get messages on the side where they're like, can we talk? And we'll just talk. And I'm like, I like feeling like I'm this auntie to my community nowadays.
I love that. Oh my gosh. So you're the first podcast guest I have envisioned on this podcast.
Thank you.
And I did not tell you about it until we met. After the podcast has already been created,
Yeah.
because I was speaking with my coach and he said, how are we doing for the podcast guest? And I was like, yep, I'm going to talk to this person who doesn't know yet. She's going to be on my podcast.
This
And
is amazing.
his jaw just dropped. He's like, what? Yeah, there are many people on my list that they don't know yet, but they will be here.
And this is fascinating to me because this is the thing about my life. Sometimes people, they see me and they're like, there's this aura around you. Like they say things about me I don't always see, but something, I get excited about little things in life. I get excited about, it's weird the way I am, but it's just little things. And I remember seeing you on LinkedIn and I got super excited about your project. I didn't know you. We had not met yet. And there was something about you where I was like, oh my God. I was so I like that you were talking about AI. I like that you were jumping and taking a leap into the entrepreneurial route. I feel like sometimes we don't hear about actuaries who do that. Like I know some actuaries who have their own company, but I haven't seen the beginning of their journey. I know about them after years of having been in this path. So for you, it was just exciting. I didn't know you. So when we met and you said that, I was like, oh my God, I'm such a fan. So thank you. I didn't know you knew me. So it was kind of fascinating to me when you said that, because I was like, wait, I'm a big fan of yours.
We met briefly, I guess 2 years ago, Halifax. It was also another dinner. It was a very long table, so we didn't really get to spend time, but you definitely had an aura to you already.
Oh, thank you
And I
so
was like,
much.
I feel like this should be perfect for one of these showcase projects. So I'm
And the
really
thing,
happy this is happening right now.
same here. And the thing is that for some reason, in my head, it's funny how people perceive us and the way we are in our own heads, right? In my head, very often, I feel like people don't know me. Because you asked me about my upbringing. I was a shy kid. I was kind of a shy. I'm an introvert. People don't know that, but I'm very introverted. But I guess on the spectrum of introversion, somewhere I'm sometimes people think I'm extroverted, but I'm introvert. So I need that time by myself. So my energy, I have to to think. I'm always thinking about my energy management. So in my head, I still see myself as this sometimes shy, introverted person, even though I like to be on a stage. It's kind of, I didn't figure out my whole personality thing properly yet. But so I see myself this way. So whenever people are like, I know you, and I'm like, really? Because for some reason, I don't think people see me. And it's kind of a weird thing. So it's
Valerie,
funny.
you are like a Wonder Woman.
Wow, thank
with the
you.
cape.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
take this lightly. Thank you so much.
Well, I think knowing that difference is interesting, right? I don't see myself in certain ways too. How you describe seeing me on LinkedIn, I don't see myself like that. It's interesting to know how we see ourselves and how other people see ourselves.
Yes.
And if other people see us consistently have a consistent image, maybe we should accept that more. I'm also
I've
an
learned.
introvert, and it's
Yeah.
hard for me to see myself in this public persona. But if enough people, what you just told me, along with I was speaking at an actuarial student program, people came to me after what they convey to me is this public persona that I don't fully feel like it's me, but it is. So
Yes.
I don't want this to go into a mental health issue, but sometimes knowing that they're connected is helpful.
It is, and I agree with you. I went to the ASNA conference earlier this year, and I was on a panel, and I was talking on a panel, and I could see there was actually there was this row with a lot of Black actual students, and I remember being on a panel answering a question and saying, "Wow, our profession has evolved," because there used to be a time when we were one or two, and we'd be we knew each other. And then I was like, wow, there's actually a whole. But the thing that was fascinating to me is that when I finished speaking, they were waiting for me to take a picture. And I had to tell them, I was like, I'm just like you. I'm no different. Like, because all of a sudden I was like, I don't want you to think that I'm doing something. Like, we're all part of this together. So it's important for me, for people, especially the younger generation, to know that I'm just like them as well. Like, maybe I have a little bit more experience, but it's a journey. It's not like overnight we're like this person. And sometimes we do need to go back. And I learn from them as well, as much as they think that I'm sharing my wisdom with them, but I'm learning so much from them. So it's like this back and forth of sharing knowledge.
That's great. I do want to talk about your what you're currently doing right now, because even though most people think actuarial work is very technical, Excel driven, behind the computer crunching numbers, but you're a global client manager at Mercer, and you also have taken on interesting roles, taking you to
Yes.
where you are today. Tell us more about that journey and about your current role.
Okay. The journey to get where I am, there was a point in my career where I knew I was not, as much as I like the theory behind actual science, I like the math, I like the calculations. I still sometimes like whenever people talk about like Python, I'm like, I don't know how to code in Python. I wish I would have time to sit and learn. I have a part of me that loves this, but I wanted to make sure I could also develop the other skills, the business skills, all the other soft skills. They were always very important to me, and I wanted to figure out a way for me to develop them. And I realized as I was working that I was working with smart actuaries, like people I was be like in admiration of their brains. I'd be like, "You're so good." So I was like, okay, I love math. I thought I was good in math, but I'm with people who are just so much like they do it so much better than they do. Like, so I was like, how can we, again, it's for me, it's that concept of diversity. How could we complement each other a little bit more instead of me trying to replicate this model where I'm like, I don't know if I could get to that level. And so it was more about me figuring out where my strengths were outside of the technical stuff. So I did go back to school, study innovation management, because there's a part of me, as I said earlier, I grew up with my mother. She made my dresses. We were creating new design dresses. There's this creative part of me that I didn't get to necessarily explore as I was working as a more junior actuary. And I wanted to see how I could tap into that more creative side of me. It's not that I'm not an artist. It's just I like the concept of ideas. So I learned through my innovation studies anything related to ideation and how to encourage people to come up with ideas. It's not about me coming up with the right ideas. It's about encouraging people to continue to talk and tap into their own ideas. So it brought a different dimension to my perspective on work. When I brought that back to the office, then that's when people noticed. And all of a sudden, it opened the door to all types of projects and things I could do. I worked on developing a new project, a new product for work when I went into group benefit consulting, because I was a pension actuary for a while and then switched to group benefit. And all of a sudden, I would be doing these different things when it came to innovation. And then people would think of me for different things that were not related. At some point, I ended up going to one of our clients. I was in the transportation railroad industry for 18 months at one of our clients doing this special mandate. And when I learned about something else, and then again, it's ideas. So then I have new information. It feeds the idea that I like, the ideas that I want to create. And then from there, I just learned. I got to be an HR person at some point. We were acquired by a company and my boss was like, you know what? Why don't you try something different? And then all of a sudden, I worked alongside him, but I was in the HR team and then reporting back to our national leader and then doing operations and HR. So with all of my experience, and then somehow I ended up in mortgage insurance at some point, which was totally different. And with all of that, I was like, okay, which role could fit everything I've done? And when I was discussing this global client manager role, I was like, it's completely different from anything I've done, but I feel I have the right basic elements to put together to eventually be successful in this role. And I'm learning right now in this role. I'm learning again, it's different conflict management. Well, it's conflict management, but then there's situations where there are different point of views. I'm in between and I'm trying to fix the solution. So I've become a fixer in a way. And then I learned to build strong relationships with my clients, give myself time to get to know them. And it's trial and error. Sometimes I do something, it works really well. And sometimes I'll try something else and it's a big failure, but I learned from it. So I've learned to be very patient with myself.
That's a really good compassion to practice with
Yes,
yourself. Earlier, you mentioned in passing that you're not an artist. I don't know if you don't call yourself an artist. You make dresses, you speak. Like, what is an artist then? Why
you're
do you feel
right.
so strongly that you're not an artist?
You're right. You're like, see, I'm having like epiphanies as I'm talking with you right now. But you're right. I think maybe it was just the way I saw artists. I knew like in school when we had arts classes, I was not the one with the nicest drawing. Like it's so maybe that's where I kind of to me like an artist or I have this respect for artists as well. So I just wouldn't want to put myself in their category. Maybe that's why. But I guess maybe in my own way, I could be an artist my own way. Because
You
it's funny,
are.
'cause, like from like me, like I love fashion, but my mom and I would be a good team because she knew how to do it properly, and I had the ideas. But whenever I would try to do it myself, it wouldn't look as good as her. So I've learned that I was the idea person, and then sometimes our people were more better at execution than the ideas themselves.
Well, I guess always be careful who you're comparing yourself against, right? If you
Oh,
only compare yourself to one person, and if that person is especially good or bad at something, you like with a sample size of one, it's hard to have a objective view of your abilities.
yes,
So again, to me, based on everything you described, I totally see you as highly creative and artist. They come
uh,
hand in hand.
thank you. You're giving me a lot of flowers today.
Flowers. I'm just saying what was coming to me.
Yes,
Um,
thanks. I appreciate
Valerie.
it.
So what do you want? Do you know what you want? You are, I want to say, late 30s, early 40s.
No, I'm turning 45 in early October.
No way.
Yes, so
Wow, you look so young.
thanks. What do I want? It's funny because it's a question I ask myself all the time, and it's a question I've been asked a lot because there were times when I was uncomfortable with the fact that I didn't know what I wanted, so I felt like it was a lot of pressure. Right now, it's more I've accepted that I'm not a person who necessarily knows what I want. I'm kind of like, as part of like, I have this path, but I worked with a coach at some point in my career because I didn't know what I wanted. And I was working with my career and I was like, I feel like there's a mold and I have to fit in the mold. And it was like, I didn't know what to do. Like, I was at this point where I was like, I don't know. I just don't fit it. And she was like, well, Valerie, maybe your mold is flexible. Maybe your mold is not this like fixed mold. It's like it shapes the way it wants to shape along the way. So that's the mold I'm in. So that's why I know I want to wake up in the morning and be happy with the way I live my life. I know I want to go to bed at night and feel like I've tried my best and I was nice to people. I know I want to be a human being. That's what I want. Around it, the rest, I want to continue to be curious and fascinated by some little things in life, the simplest little things. I have fascinations about specific topics sometimes. For a while, I was fascinated about like the flow state of mind, the flow. I was like this, like,
Yeah.
and I remember I would talk about it. People would be like, "What?" I'd be like, "There's something about being in the flow state of mind," and it was just so fascinating to me. And then ideas. We don't think about ideas, but there's a way to ideate about things. There's a way to allow people to have enough space and time to come up with good ideas. I feel like we're not doing it properly nowadays. We're asking people in the room, come up with an idea, and we're not preparing them. So it's again. So this is what I want. I want to continue to raise awareness about little things we don't think about, and I want to continue to be present for people.
Okay, you have to be on stage and you have to write. Please, there's so many. Oh my God, I would love to. Yeah, please. Once you become an official, you know, speaker, let me know. And I look forward to see more things you share on social
I'll do it.
media.
Yes, I'll do it. I promise.
Well, Valerie, thank you so much for your time today. Is there anything I haven't asked that you would love to share with the audience?
I like to talk about resilience. We talked, I'm smiling. And even like when you ask about my upbringing, I feel like what's missing from everything I've said are all the challenges I've been through. I've been through a lot. I'm smiling today because I know it's possible to overcome a lot in life. But life from a very young age has taught me that nothing is impossible. It's about the mindset. It's about what we allow ourselves to do. And it's about allowing yourself to fail as well, because there's failure along the way. And it's okay. We just learn from it. It's about being resilient. And I had great examples of resilience since a very, very young age. And I've learned to be resilient myself and self-compassion. I'm in my self-compassion journey. I've never been nicer to myself. It's okay. It's okay to I feel like life is just this journey, and I love being in my 40s because I feel maybe I'm in this chapter of my life where it's fine. I feel like sometimes people will think that I take things lightly. I don't think a lot of things lightly, but I allow myself now to be nice to myself. So that's where maybe sometimes we make the distinction.
What do you do when you say be nice to myself? Are there particular things you do or giving
Well,
yourself permission?
I wake up in the morning, I open my eyes, and I'm just happy to see another day. So it starts well. So my day starts with, oh my God, I get to do this again. So I'm just excited about it. So in the morning, I like to consciously realize, oh my God, I'm waking up and I get to see another day. So just that, for me, it makes a difference. And then it's in the little things. It's in the stopping for just a second to remember where I am physically, what I'm doing, what I got to do. Being able to talk with you right now, this is like a privilege. So just realizing I'm doing a podcast, you're going to hear me. So it's not nothing. So for me, it's in the little things. As much as I enjoy doing sometimes the larger, bigger things, it's also realizing the journey. It's amazing where I am today. I get to do things I never dreamed I would be doing. So I can't complain about it.
Thank you so much for your time today, Valerie. I really appreciate you spending the time with us this morning.
Thank you for the opportunity, Jen. I don't take this lightly, and I'm very happy you reached out to me for this. Thank you so much.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Be Brilliant with Jing Lang. We hope you found valuable insights and motivation to fuel your journey. Be sure to like and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. And share this with 3 people in your life endeavoring to achieve personal greatness. Remember, brilliance is within you, and every step you take brings you closer to your best self. Keep striving, keep shining, and until next time, stay brilliant.